Welcome to Season 3 of In the Vine podcast with your host, Melissa Chavez, joined by Yesenia, Denise, and Shekinah. This season, we'll be discussing the joy of the Lord and, of course, our monthly and other upcoming events. To find out more, please visit www.inthevine.org. And if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to show your support and like, share, and subscribe.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of In the Vine Connects. Guess what? It's our last episode. No lloren. No lloren porque nos vamos. Pero ríanse porque estuvimos aquí. Is that a saying? I feel like it's
a song.
Yeah, it should be. If not, then I've just created the hottest mix ever. Anyway, welcome everybody to our last episode of In the Vine. We're just so excited. Season 3. Yes.
of season 3.
We're very excited to be here. Today we're going to talk to you about joy in friendships. And we're going to answer your questions. But before that, it is your host, Melissa Chavez, here with you. And with me, I have
Denise.
Shekinah.
Yesy.
And we're going to just dive into it. Shekinah, can you please share with us the question that won for our personal question?
Yes, absolutely. So you all voted for what is a relationship red flag for you?
Ooh, that's good. That's good. So just so you guys know, also we're flying off the cuff with this one as well. So you're gonna get the raw personalities today. Okay, please show them your shirt.
No,
please.
She went to church like that.
She has a vicious and delicious shirt on. And I remember the first time I saw her in it, she walked into church with it. I was like, Denise. I don't know if I respect you or if I'm like blushing. I don't know. But I'm so glad that she brought it today.
I know.
How do you feel? You feel vicious and delicious
I
today?
sure do.
Okay.
Ready.
Okay, so the question. Who wants to answer first?
But, Shakay, can you explain the relationship part? Just like you explained it to me like a few seconds ago. Like if I was a 4-year-old.
Yeah.
So what is a relationship red flag? I just worded it that way because it can be imperative to friendships or dating or, coworker. And like, what is something that someone does or says that would immediately just go, you're not somebody I want to be in a relationship with?
I feel like that's too broad.
You think so?
Yeah, because
I have an answer.
Really? Because I feel like a red flag would be different in a
Well, of course, but there's certain universal red
similarities.
flags.
Okay, maybe I'll just piggyback
So
off
I'm
of
so
you guys.
confused. Are we talking about like relationships as in friendships or dating?
Yeah,
Any
Both.
kind of relationship.
Any kind of
she said
relationship.
any kind.
Because they're different.
That's what I'm. Because with
I just feel like there's universal red flags, though.
Okay, can I
Do you want to do just dating?
Yeah.
Let's just do
Just
dating.
let Yesy answer the freaking question.
So my red flag would be for a relationship in general with anybody.
Universal.
Would be, yeah, universal is if they're constantly talking about the bad things happening in their life.
Oh,
That's good.
They're constantly posting all the negativity happening. Like there's one person on my social media actually. It's really sad, but it happens often. Like I just got ran over today.
Oh my gosh.
I got hit by a car again. Why does this always happen to me? I must not be God's favorite. And like it's
I hate
constant.
that. The victim kind of
Oh my gosh, it's so
mentality.
annoying.
Yeah.
Or like pray for me because I'm going through this, and I'm like, but it's always happening. So like they're always seeking it. So I don't know. So that's me. You know, for any relationship, even if it was like family.
Just family.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, and mine would be someone who gossips, someone who just wants to talk constantly about somebody else, their problems, what the new juicy tea is. That's a red flag for me. Is somebody that's constantly pushing it off on somebody else and talking about their bad behavior or whatever new things happening. So that would be my red flag for anybody.
That's good. Mm-hmm. You always finish abruptly, like.
It's like
Yeah.
I hit hard with that period. End of sentence.
Period.
Next.
I don't know. I'll circle back.
No.
If you want to just pick one, Denise, you can just pick one. If you have a good dating one.
I mean, for me, dating would be someone who's selfish. Completely. That's like a big red flag for me. But in friendships, I would say someone who manipulates.
Yeah. That's not a universal thing.
I mean, it is. It is. But I think there's a fine line between...
Yeah.
Because when you get in a relationship with a man, there is certain, like, submission that is required.
Yes.
But in the view of society, it can be viewed as manipulation. So I'm very careful on how I choose, like, my words. You know what I mean? Because it's honestly, like, what church can call submission, people in the world would call manipulation.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
so that's why I don't say it universally, but just because I feel like I would have to go on into like this big bunny trail to explain the difference. So I'll just stick with that. It's my final answer.
I like it. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I should have asked what the question was before. But I guess for me, I was going to say, before you said gossiping, was how people talk about other people when they're not in the room. So
Yeah.
it doesn't necessarily have to be gossiping, I guess, but just the way that they address them is a big deal. I remember I was, because I joined like committee interviews at work, and they were discussing their department problems, and then the boss, like the chair of the committee was like, well, they're not in the room, so let's not talk about it right now. And I was like,
Yeah.
respect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that.
All right. Next question.
The next
dating
question y'all voted for is, does age matter? And yes, this does pertain to dating.
I was telling Shakay I did not expect everyone to vote for that one. The majority was going for something different, which was, what is a... Oh, is talking to your ex a red flag,
Yeah,
right?
that one started to win, and then y'all
about
came
your
in
ex.
hard with that last one.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, does age matter one? So
Interesting.
here we are.
I guess people are curious. Does age matter? What do you guys think?
I think
I
it becomes
think it'd be-
weird, like if a girl's like 18 and the guy's like 35, 40.
Yeah.
You know, like I feel like there's like creepiness
Oh, yeah, for sure.
in that. But I'm older than my husband.
But it's not by a lot.
It's like 8 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm still older.
Not even a year.
Take a break.
She's a cougar. 8 months.
Robbing the cradle over here.
I think it's definitely weird when somebody's underage, obviously.
For sure.
For
Yeah, I
sure,
think that's just kind of
like
an
off limits.
automatic.
But I was seeing a reel this morning, and I didn't think about it. But this lady, she was like a sugar mom, a sugar baby, and she was like, she had like that clown face on her, and she was dancing, like coming into the house, and she was like really dressed up. And she said, "You would think it would be different with an older man, but it's the same problems." And then like she's just like. Has a clown face because it's jokes on her, right?
Oh, got
Because
it.
she's a sugar baby with an older man thinking he was going to be treating her
gosh.
better. So, I mean, I think it's very much similar in ways. I mean, I've never dated an older man, so I can't speak. But
I remember seeing this post, this also a reel, where the guy was like, I hate when my friends complain about how young my girlfriend is. Like, he's like, the way I choose to raise her is my way. Is my concern. Because she was like much younger.
yeah,
Gross.
I've seen that.
Wow.
I've seen that too. I've seen that too.
Yeah.
But I do think that there's such a disconnect in with what you know. Like, let's say, like, there's some people that grew up in the 90s or maybe even in the 80s, and then you don't catch references, right? Or you're watching shows and you don't find the same things funny. I think there's a difference in that.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think it just goes back down to really what your values are. If we erased age completely and that was off the board, are your values, are your morals, are your belief systems, and what you really want out of marriage being met? Because I've known a lot of couples who are, 10 plus years apart and they're perfectly happy, but that's because their values align.
Yeah.
However, like you said, if your values in a marriage are to are jokes and is specifically comedy, I think is a huge. I think age can matter because there's a culture with comedy based off of what we were raised on. So I think it depends on your values, and I think the older you get, the less it matters. But at the end of the day, I don't think that age matters. I just think that as long as your values are being met, and it goes back to if you're in it for the money, if you're in it for that insurance plan, that's the downfall. That's the your values aren't lining up in general. So no marriage at that point is going to work out, regardless of age, because your heart's not in the right place. But yeah, no, I personally don't think that age matters. I think that as long as you line up in your values and what you want.
Again,
right there, hard period. You want me to continue? I'll keep going. So
I love it. Okay, did you answer? You did answer. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Same. To me, it does matter, but like it's not the end all to it all. Like. Yeah, don't date somebody that's obviously not legal. That's freaking weird.
Yes.
When you're already like been legal for like a decade already. But yeah, I don't think it's the foundation of a relationship.
Is it weird if the woman is older than the man by a lot? Or is this sexist? Because
are you asking for a friend?
This is 8 months.
I know a couple who's 10 years apart and she's older.
No, like, I mean, like, let's say you're, like, in your 30s and he's in, like, his 20s.
Don't get makeup on me.
Don't get...
If she's 38 and he's 22?
Yeah. Just random facts.
Oh, that one.
I think it would be weird.
Are you okay?
But the heart wants what it wants. Okay. No, but in all seriousness, I think it is weird when the girl is older than 8 months.
It is, right? Yeah. So is that called sexism? Like, is that sexist? Because it would be okay if the man was older.
I think it's weird personally, but I wouldn't have a problem with. Like, I wouldn't see it and be like, wow, you know, I don't know.
We actually know somebody who got into a really like married with the guy who was younger, and he was like friends with her kids, and he like.
But her kids are like over age.
Yeah. But he was like gun-ho for her, and they're like maybe like 20 years.
Yeah, like I've known of women who are much older. I think the biggest age gap I personally know is maybe 10 years.
We even went to the wedding.
Oh, yeah.
We went to the wedding.
Yeah, he's like absolutely madly in love with her.
Yeah.
That's so romantic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it actually was.
I'm going to text my friend. There's a chance.
There's a chance.
Just kidding.
You nobody in this room.
Nobody in this room. No.
Okay, so now, now we're going to discuss the topic. Wait, I want you to answer. Do you want to answer the runner-up question? If you were to open up your Instagram, what kind of reels would you see?
Oh, no. I would rather answer the other one. Which one's the other one? Is it a red flag if you talk about your ex?
Oh, yeah. Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah.
Huge red flag.
Yeah.
Huge red flag.
I think that's just a flat yes.
Doesn't matter the connotation. Like, okay, there comes a point in the relationship, right, when you're like, okay, tell me about, like, your past, where you want to know.
Yeah, not the
but
first
if it's,
date.
like, a constant conversation, doesn't matter whether you're talking good or bad about them. It's just like, okay, clearly there's something there that they're still tugging at the heart. Yeah. But what would you like to say about that?
Oh, I went on a date one time, and he took me out to eat. He picked me up. It was very nice. He was very, how do I say, chivalrous? Yeah. And once we started sitting down, he was like asking me some questions, and then right after, see, that's so great because my ex.
Oh, I hate that.
That's so great because my ex did this. You seem very nice. You seem like you wouldn't, like, destroy my car. My ex. And I'm like, oh, my God.
Oh, my goodness.
But it was at one of my favorite restaurants. So I didn't.
You had to throw it down.
Yeah. I was like, okay, like, we'll just wait till this is over.
Yeah.
Let's get something
good.
good.
I was like, let me get the most expensive dessert on my menu.
Yeah.
So good. Would any of you ladies like to answer that?
No, I think that we just answered it. Yes, it is a red flag.
Okay. So now to the subject matter, which is joy and friendship. And again, the girls, what I'm about to say, they haven't heard this. But so this is just going to be the catapult to what we're going to talk about. But as you guys heard on one of the Mondays with Mel episode, I was recently in the hospital. And during that time, I was able to really meditate on how rich I am when it comes to friendships. There's this part in the Bible where it says that that there was this guy that couldn't walk or anything, and so there was Jesus preaching, and it says that his friends, they couldn't get the friend to Jesus, the paralyzed man, they couldn't get him to Jesus, and so what they did, they were so desperate to get this man healed that they literally tore off the roof off of the place in order for them to be able to get him in Jesus's presence, and the man received his healing, and it was great. And so to me, like when I was in the hospital, like it felt like that, like the countless texts, the countless visits, the countless encouragement, prayer, all the good stuff. And so, and I was like, man, there's so much joy in relationships, because, we're talking about the joy of the Lord. And in the last episodes, we discussed our own personal journey. But one aspect that we didn't discuss of that is how we had to lean on one another in order to find strength sometimes. Like, there was times where we would text each other and be like, hey, like, I'm going like through this. Can you please just text, pray for me, or whatever. And so to me, it's such a thing that's needed in the body of Christ, and that should be celebrated even more in the body of Christ, because, the world will tell you that to use people, but in Christ and in kingdom, it's not a using, it's a building, and we all build with each other in order to finish the race strong. And so with that being said, ladies, hello.
Hi.
So I really want to hear, right? We don't have an agenda today. We don't have notes. We do have a limit. But so I just really want to hear. I know I started with Denise in the last episode. It always reminds me to go that. You can't tell me it doesn't for you. Okay. So I'm going to start with Shekinah. Go ahead.
Hi. No, I think it's great, because it's funny you bringing that up. I think those characters in that story are so overlooked, but the man wouldn't have been able to make it to Jesus without his friends carrying him. And I just think it shows a great act of faith on all of their parts to do that. And so, yeah, you're right. I think, I talk about in a few episodes already how I really struggled with pride, and I really struggled internally with just trusting people. And I pushed people away, and I thought that was the smart thing to do. I thought it was because I was smarter than everybody else, but the Lord humbled me in that, and he humbled me through friendships. He humbled me through people who the Lord really knocked that down by kind of speaking to me during my prayer time and saying, you need to make friends. you need to get out there, pretty much. And so I remember this was when I was going into college. And I remember making like a firm stance of whatever I'm invited to, I'm going to go to, regardless of whether I feel like it or not. And, it's a scary thing to do when you're going to college. So I wouldn't suggest that unless you feel peace from the Lord, because I also went to heavy prayer of whatever I'm invited to, Lord, let it be only from you.
That's good.
So I had to lean heavily on the Lord for that, because some of them were school events. Some of them were just off the campus events and private events. And but I went, and it was so hard for me at sometimes, and I felt so awkward, and it was difficult for me to engage with people, but I did, and I said hello, and I showed up, and it was through that I ended up building this like group of girls that we ended up just sticking together throughout the entirety of our college experience, and we roomed together throughout the rest of the year until we graduated together. And that just taught me so much, and the Lord healed me a lot and rid me of my pride through that, because your friends call you out if you find real ones. If you find real honest friends. And how do you find real honest friends? You yourself have to commit to honesty. So I think that's just so powerful, and I think that that statement is, and that part of the story is so powerful, because I look at those characters and I think without them this wouldn't have happened, and this wouldn't have made it into the story that we know and love today.
Yeah.
So friends, y'all, friends are important. And if you have that pride, if you have that lone wolf mentality, lone wolves die in the wild, by the way.
Yep.
They really do. There's like, if you study wolves, the lone wolf, that's either because they got rejected or because out of their own pride for some reason, they die. You cannot survive alone in this world. And the Lord has made us to be social creatures, and that's why he calls us to be in a church. And so if you are having difficulty finding someone to date, maybe the Lord has asked you to first establish friendships, because that was also something the Lord dealt with me at some point. If you don't know how to make friends, how in the world are you going to date somebody or marry somebody that requires such a deeper component of yourself?
Yeah.
And friendship is great practice, guys. Friendship is a great way to step out there and get involved with people, learn how to be vulnerable, and learn how to step into the world of relationship before you step into the world of marriage. I know a lot of people who complain about not being married, not finding the right guy, but they can't even maintain a simple friendship with somebody. They can't even show up to the ladies only events, which are quarterly at GWCC.
And Lancaster, California.
Yes. Join us.
Sign up now.
But no, it's just about you stepping out. And if you're having a difficult time finding someone to date, look at your circle in general. Do you have anybody in your relationship
that's
with?
That's very good advice. I really like that.
Yeah?
Yeah. I'm just kidding. I'm being too much. All right. Go ahead. Look at your circle.
Did you have coffee?
No.
Oh.
Maybe that's the problem.
Therein lies the problem.
But yes, that would be my advice, following up my experience with friendship and finding joy in that.
I love that. I don't think I've ever heard you say that in this kind of like context, and so to hear that, I think is really good. It's pretty powerful.
Yeah, it's good.
Any comments?
No, I mean she's always clear and concise.
Yeah.
And she speaks
That's why I
so
hit that
well.
hard period.
Yeah.
It's so great.
You know
needs a
what it
button.
is, honestly? I have so much more going on in my head. I can keep going, and I know I'm like, just stop, bam. And then I have to hit that hard period of just like, right here's a good stop.
Yeah.
So I'm hitting the brakes on my conversation.
That's so funny.
That's good. I guess a question that I would have is, do you still keep in touch with that group of girls?
I do. Not all of them. Some, just fall away. Some friends are seasonal. But every year, we meet up once a year in fall. And we just do our own little party and we hang out.
Oh yes, I've seen you post those.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
I love that. College. Formative years. Yessie.
What should I share?
You tell us. What's your joy in friendships? What's your take on that?
So there's been many seasons, obviously, when you have different friendships, and I'm thankful for each and every one of them. And something that makes me laugh so much to this day is that I tell Melissa, like, I've had ex-best friends, and, like, she gets so jealous.
I'm like, oh, so you can move on from me? Is what you're telling me?
Yeah, that's what she keeps saying. It was just really funny. But it's because, obviously you grow from those friendships, and sometimes they weren't the friends that you thought they were. Completely. Like the high school friend that I had, she talked behind my back to my own sister and said unimaginable things about me. And I remember I just cut her off on graduation day because it was the day before graduation day. And so as soon as you throw the hat up, we were supposedly friends beforehand, but I just felt really odd with her. And when I threw the hat up and then I went to go get it, I didn't see her anymore. She had walked away from us. And so I'm like, okay, that's it. That's my sign for me. And then I just completely walked away. And maybe I don't agree with, with just walking away, maybe talking about the situation. But years later, she approached me and she apologized. And she said, every single day for these past years, I've been thinking about you and how horrible I was to you. So I'm so sorry. Like, I totally repent. So that was cool. So we were able to be amicable and say hi to each other, and I'm still friends with her family, so it's hard for us to avoid each other. Yeah. And then other friendships, I've just seen healing in them. There's been situations that I've been having such a hard time, even in dating, and I've had friends stay up with me and hear me out. And then I've had other friends who've literally driven me to the park and opened up their skylight, and then we've just sat there drinking kombuchas and hot coffee. Like, I remember because it was winter time and we were just at the park and it was midnight, and that could be dangerous for some ladies, but this person like literally set up like blankets and everything. That's and so just to talk with me because they knew I was going through a very tough time even through dating. So I feel like having the right friendships, especially in the right seasons, it's really healing to you, and it teaches you to be a better friend. And then you want to make sure you go out of your way to help these people, because you just never know what that person might need. And sometimes you might be taken advantage of, and unfortunately those aren't the people for you, and hopefully you will find out soon enough. But it's really, really crucial to find those important people and value them and put the worth on them, honestly.
That's really good.
That's what I would say.
I like how both of you ladies have brought in like how it's affected in the dating aspect as well. I think that's important.
Totally. I wasn't being rude. I was looking up a quote because I kept replaying it in my head. But there's a quote that says like, "Show me your friends, and I'll show you your future." Mm-hmm. And so that to me is joyful in a very weird way. But friendships have been a lifesaver in my life in many different aspects and areas. It's also been one of the biggest battles in my life, to be honest. I know Melissa knows a lot about that.
True that.
But I also know that it's for a reason. But nonetheless, perseverance, pushing through, there is joy in it because it does bring a lot of healing. You know, friendships bring forth a lot of healing. And I remember there was a season where I would say, no new friends. And I made like just random friends. But it just hit me right now as you guys were talking was the reason why I was saying no new friends was because in that time, I was surrounded by friends that would drain me. And because it would drain me, I felt like why would I want new friends? Does that make sense? So I really feel like, I don't know, like there's so many rabbit holes, but there's joy in friendships when they're healthy.
Yes.
And I think you guys have all touched on that to some degree or not, right? There's this reciprocity. There's this, there's this expectation, but there's also just this genuine love and selflessness in both areas of it. You know, I don't know. I think it's, I think friendships are attacked a lot, but I also know that it's because it brings forth a lot of breakthrough. And even if you're married, like you can be married and your husband can be your best friend, but there's something different about having your girlfriend, you know, or a female perspective, or, you know, just other things that you can bounce off of. You know, I know that with Melissa, like she's like my 3 o'clock friend. Like I can text her at 3 o'clock in the morning and we'll be up and we'll be texting. But there's a lot of healing in that, you know, and I also love that, you know, having those types of friends that when you share these things and when you're hitting a low point, they're quick to remind you of like your high points, or they're quick to remind you of revelation or prophecies or things that the Lord has spoken over your life that's encouraging and brings forth joy in those dark times. So I definitely think that God friendships are the essence of joy in so many different aspects of life.
Yeah, I agree with that, and it's really good. So now I want to address something because I think, and I know that you just said it's something that you learned from where it was just like, okay, maybe just cutting it off wasn't the right thing. Because I think there's like this thing, right, that happens in society as a whole, and we've also experienced it in the church, where a conflict rises, and all of a sudden it's as if there's no history there. And it's just like, okay, how do you handle the conflict in a healthy way in a relationship? Because I know that all 4 of us here in one way or another, we've experienced conflict even with one another, whether it be small or major. Like, you know, there's been conflict in this table, and I think that's why it works so well, because we've learned the heart, you know what I mean? We haven't just assumed. And so who would any of you ladies like to answer that? It's like, how have you learned to manage through the conflict, and when have you learned, okay, this is the time for me to let go, where it's just like, you know, it just called for that. So
I want to answer that only because I think that Linda gave me some of the most profound revelation when it came to that, because she used scripture. You know, she's like, you don't beat a dead horse. She's like, you go to the Bible says you go to the person once, you go to the person twice, and if they still hasn't changed, like have nothing else to do with it, you know? So I think a lot of the times we try to beat a dead horse over because we want things a certain way, if that makes sense, or it's like it has to be my way or no way. But I also believe like there's a healthy boundaries. I know we've talked a lot about healthy boundaries, and it's like, okay, have the conversation. How does that conversation go? Are they respecting your boundaries? Are they hearing you? Are they being defensive, right? Because if they're being defensive, I can mostly guarantee you that, again, if it's going to be an issue again, and it's going to become defensive again, you know? But I definitely believe that having that initial conversation, is important, but I also believe that you don't have to beat a dead horse over it, because then you're just going to manipulate the situation. They're going to change temporarily just because they're trying to please you, and it's not genuine, and they don't want to hear you anymore. So I just feel like that's I would say a healthy balance.
That's good. I was just thinking about that episode that we did about the boundaries, preferences, and compromises, because it's true. I was thinking in a completely different context. But okay, so you said something really good. Now, I think a lot of people stay in relationships out of a place of guilt, where it's just like, well, I don't want to walk away from this person, or
or
fear.
like, or time
fear.
too. Like I've spent so much time. We've been friends for so long. Like,
it's tough, but at some point, like, you have to walk away. And I don't think and correct me if I'm wrong, right? Because there's those relationships where it's just like, okay, like, you know, they come in and out. You're just like, you see them at an event and you're like, cool, I'm so glad that you're here. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you like put your resources into them, right? And you don't put your time into it. You don't bring your family into that or whatever the case may be. But and then there's those times where it's just like, you know, I just feel like every relationship needs to add value in one way or another. And I don't mean, again, not in the world's way. I don't mean that in that way where it's just like you have to gain some benefit from somebody. But at the end of the day, it's like, okay, like, well, maybe I can't do this, but I can show up in this way. And I think understanding how you can show up for people and seeing how people can show up for you and seeing, okay, is this good enough for me? Then I think that'll help you really figure out if a relationship should stay with you. And I know one of the things that our church is big on is like, you know, Jesus had, because there's also those times where you want to be friends with everybody. Yeah. Especially when you're like in a small community and it's growing and it's growing, you start feeling disconnected. Yeah. You start feeling like, well, why are they close? Or sometimes you end up being like the bridge in a relationship and then all of a sudden they move on from you and you're just like, what the heck happened? Yeah. And you're just like, what, you know? And so then one thing that I think every one of us at this table has learned and that we've been told is, you know, Jesus had his 12 friends. Yeah. Right? Jesus himself, he was surrounded by multitudes. He poured out into 12 people. But out of those 12 people, he had 3 close friends. And so those 3 friends were able to see Jesus in who he really was at a like mountain of transfiguration. They were able to see him in his full glory, and they were also able to see him in his worst of the worst. Right? Unfortunately, they dropped the ball with that one, but but nonetheless, like Jesus didn't. It's a beautiful romance, really, that Christ has with his friends and with his bride and all around together, but. Was that hard for you, ladies? Like understanding that at some point, like you just have to be fine with your 3 when the community around you is like growing and it's shifting, right? And allowing God to choose those 3 for you, because I think we wanna choose who those 3 are, but God is the one that naturally builds those together. Yeah.
So it was difficult for me because I'm really glad that you brought up the 3. I remember I was in a class one point and it was family psychology, but it brought up a healthy mindset and a healthy person has 3 people in their inner circle, no more, no less. If you have any more, you're typically struggling with identity issues. And if you have any less, you're typically struggling with identity issues. But if you have any less, ultimately, that's just you typically have social anxieties typically. So 3 is the prime number, and you're right. I think that a lot of people who feel like I have to be in every circle, I have to be in every event, I have to, there's an identity issue there. Yeah. There's not peace within yourself, or there's not peace where God put you. And that's something I had to learn because I was on the opposite, where I had nobody in my inner circle for a long time. And so getting people in there, and then you have that balance of now I'm searching for friends, now I'm putting myself out there. And at one point I was involved in so many different groups and circles, and now I have to really hone that down. And that happens naturally, especially if you open yourself up to it. The Holy Spirit will guide you to the right people, and it did, thank God. But then I ended up having my small group of friends that I mentioned at the beginning of the episode. But where am I going with this?
You were going somewhere good, girlfriend.
I was going somewhere good. But essentially, so that's where the ladies only events came into play, and that's my heart behind it, is because our church is growing, and there was a season that we had for a long time in that transition of growing, where there were so many people who were just complaining and having offenses because they weren't invited to certain events, or they didn't know about this event, or there was this birthday party they weren't invited to, or they didn't know about this or that and the other thing. And when you have a large church, you have a large family, there's something happening every weekend. Yeah. It's hard to keep up, and so that was like a teaching for a really long time of, you guys have to be okay with not being involved with absolutely everything. In fact, it's healthy. Yeah. Take a weekend for yourself, guys. We love that you want to be involved, but it was just a difficult transition. It was a mindset that had to shift ultimately. And so unfortunately, though, there were those people that took it to the extreme opposite, and they didn't show up to anything at all. And so it's a balancing act, especially when you make those transitions. But that's where like I said, the ladies only events that I started doing quarterly, and I explain this at every event, is I'm doing this for you ladies to congregate as a whole, as a congregation, and from here, I really hope to see you guys branch out into smaller groups. I hope that you meet your new best friend here. I hope to hear that you meet this person every week for coffee now.
Yes.
And for anyone that feels left out at all, you make the effort to invite somebody out for coffee. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so that's the heart behind them, and that's why we're doing this quarterly. Is I'm really praying, I'm really hoping that everyone who comes finds somebody in the community, a small group of women that they can just meet with and hang out with outside of those events.
Yeah. So good. Pretty.
Yeah. Or go work out with, right?
Or go work out with.
I saw a post today of 2 ladies working out together that I didn't think would work out together. So that was awesome. Really cool.
Oh, really? Tell me the names after. It's so cool. I want to be a part of it. Yeah. Just kidding. Yeah, I think it really comes down to identity issues. Is really not, as you guys are talking and everything, because I'm running different people through my mind and running myself through my mind, right? And it was funny because I remember when, actually that's not important, but yeah, so it is an identity crisis. And so bringing it even back to the quote that you said about show me your friends and I'll show you your future, absolutely, 100%. Because even coming back down to like this experience that I just had, it's like, thank God that I'm surrounded by people that know God's voice. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because it could have been easy for like, and I was really careful with who I allowed to know what was going on in the immediate, because I'm like, okay, I need to know that I'm surrounded by people that are filled with faith, that are filled with compassion. And lo and behold, it was everybody that's in my inner circle. And even in that, though, I did learn. Shekinah, I know... we just went through this experience because we were discussing, right, a certain thing. And I had to open myself up to experience new people, people that I wouldn't otherwise would have. And so then those people ended up being such a huge blessing where I'm at in my life right now, and still are. And it was I would have never expected it. As a matter of fact, I opposed it. And both Shekinah and Janice would have, if they were there with me, they would have slapped the crap out of me.
I was ready.
Actually, yeah. They actually called me out in a really big way. And I was just really grateful about that. And what's crazy is, so I was having this conversation with Denise and Shekinah, right, because of these people. And simultaneously, Yessie, without knowing what was happening, she texted me the next day and she was like, I was at the altar and I was crying and I was praying this specific prayer for you. And it meshed together with the rest of the story. And I was just like, man, God, you're so good. You know, the fact that I'm surrounded by people that are literally praying the same thing, sometimes when I don't even have the strength. And I know that all of us at this table have had experiences like that, where it's like they were able to, I remember I had an ex-best friend too, okay?
Yeah, I know. You've shared.
And she sent me a quote once, and she was like, friends are the people that are able to sing the song of your soul back to you when you forget the lyrics. And to this day, like, I've carried that with me, and I'm just like, yeah, like, you know, when I forget who I am, whose I am, it's so important to be surrounded by people that see you not through their own filters, but through the eyes of the love of God. And so that's why I wanted to do this episode, because if you don't have friends like that, then it's possible, it's available, and you may have been burned. And I'm not saying that doesn't suck and it doesn't hurt, but again, at some point you're gonna have to move on and open yourself up and stop feeling sorry for yourself. I keep yelling at our listeners.
Feeling sorry for yourself, guys. Get over it. No, but I'm glad you touched on that, because that's like, and you touched on it too, that's like the biggest fear of why we don't pursue other friends, or why we don't get out of our own homes to pursue that, is because we have been hurt, and there's that fear, there's that distrust, you know, of, but what if I get burned again? And I'm going to tell you guys right now, you will. Yep. It's not a maybe. You will get burned again. You start inviting people into your life, you will get betrayed, you will get lied to, you will get burned again. But what's so fantastic about that is that when you have those friends, they heal those places, and you guys grow stronger together. And it's such a beautiful balance of growth and strength and maturity that takes place. And it's all due to you just opening yourself up and being vulnerable to that. And a lot of people are afraid, but what if I get burned again? Well, then you also have great friends who are going to counteract that.
I think one of the things that really was just, I can pinpoint, was really transformational for me. because I've always struggled in the relationship. Like I've always had friends, and it never fails where you said like I'll bridge and then I'm left out.
Yeah.
And so one of the and in the beginning it was really, really hurtful. But then Melissa said something so profound to me. She said, some people like plant, some water, and then God like brings the increase. And then I realized at that moment, I don't know if like, I know we've talked about that, but like for me, that was like, oh my gosh, like that's even in friendships, right? Like people don't owe you. And I mean, the way that I've been able to work or navigate friendships is people don't owe me anything, right? Like goes back, do everything unto the Lord. So maybe if my role with a friend is or a person is just to sow a seed, then beautiful, I've sowed the seed. If it's to water, then it's to water. But then if it's God to bring the increase, God's to bring the increase. So I think that if you've ever experienced, rejection, which I'm sure you have because everybody has from the world. I mean, I experienced rejection in friendships in the world and even in the church. So it doesn't change. And I'm not saying that it's done maliciously because sometimes it's not, right? Yeah. But it goes back to what are you going to do differently? So if you change your mindset, if you change the narrative that you're feeding the seeds in your like mind, you'll realize that it's, and I think I said it, I think I did a post about it. Like sometimes God's rejection is really just his protection, And I've realized that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, God, like I didn't see it in the immediate, but I see it now. And so just realizing that when you go into, like I love what you said is you're going to be hurt. But if I would have kept myself shut, I wouldn't have experienced the friendships that I have now, right? So one, that's important. Two, change the narrative. And three, one of the things that I realized recently was that a lot of the thoughts that I had about people or friendships were not mine. They were the people that I was hanging around with. And I was like, which goes back to, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. So it's like, if you have friends that are feeding you, or people, I don't want to say friends, if there's people in your circle that are feeding you toxicity, like they have a certain viewpoint or worldview or biblical view, you're going to start adapting those whether you realize it or not. And then you start to take them on as your own when they're not.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make perfect sense.
Yeah, and I also think people's calling is so different. There's some people that are out there and they evangelize and they're meant to like go out there and they get their energy from people, and then there's other people that they have the only like very handful and they're okay with that and it works for them.
Yeah, I know that at least between Yessie and I, we're kind of opposites when it comes to the way that we approach people. And I was like, dude, like, I don't know about that person. She's like, they're so nice.
Give them a chance. Yeah. What are you talking about?
But it's important, right? Because sometimes I'm able to be like, Yessie, like, that person, like, for sure. I know for sure. This is not
and
a
I'll tell her
thing.
after. I'm like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. And it's, right, we do that, which iron sharpens iron, as the word says. And, so I know that I already said it, but if you don't have that close group of friends, first and foremost, and it may not be, I just want to sympathize. We want to have compassion with that because we understand that it is difficult, right? But at the same time, I don't want to coddle that because, there's so much joy. There really is so much joy in finding people that you can just hang out with. And, that's why we created In the Vine Connects events, because we want to be able to create that space where you can come and meet people that don't necessarily walk in your same circle, but it's somebody that you needed. And it's somebody that, again, back what you were saying about the women's events, but
or that they're going something similar, like they're single.
Yeah.
They believe in Christ and they're out in the AV, they're looking for something to do.
Yeah.
And there's maybe people in their circle that aren't like that, because I know that you might, like when I was single, friends were married, right?
Yeah.
And then vice versa, now you're married and your friends are single. Like you might not be in the same like hanging out space.
Yeah. So it's so important to open yourself up because it goes back to what we talked about in the last episode. Don't be carnally minded when you're choosing friends. Be spiritually minded. Because friends impact legacy. Can you imagine those group of friends that took that paralyzed man to the feet of Jesus? They changed this man's legacy.
Yeah.
Because even Jesus, when he healed him, he didn't say, oh, you're healed. He said, your sins are forgiven you. And so now it's a brand new lineage that's starting. Now it's a brand new story that's being written for this man. Now he's probably had kids and, you know, all these amazing things. And so your friends do impact your generations, whether you accept it or not, whether you see it or not. You have to look forward. And it's like, okay, is this friendship you know, being friends with Denise and Yessie, I'm now godmother to their children. And so to me, I'm like, okay, well, they're tied with me for life. Like, we're going to be partying up in heaven in one way or another, you know what I mean? Because now I'm concerned about their generations, right? Like, now there's an investment. Now there's a covenant. Not that there wasn't before, but it's major. And so now when I think about my dating, since this is the first covenant that I entered into with their baby girls, it's like, okay, now when I date, is this person going to complement this covenant? Because a covenant shouldn't be nulled because now you found something else. Like, it's a unison, it's a unity. And so to me, it's like, okay, now I'm being minded, and I also know that my things that I do in secret impacts their legacy as well, because I'm godmother to their children. And so it's just like, you have to have these things into consideration. Like, you can't be willy-nilly. And if you willy-nilly went picky, I don't know, I had to take pressure off of it. And then, like, if you're looking around and maybe you do have friends and you're just like, okay, well, Denise just said that this is what my future would look like, and you're looking at them and you're just like, oh crap.
It's not looking too bright.
It's not a good look.
Right.
You know, then start distancing yourself, and they're gonna have questions. I remember one time I had a friend that was like, you unfollowed me from Instagram. I was like, oh yeah, sorry. And then, I mean, I had a DUI because of you, so bye. So reasonable, yeah, for sure. So ladies, last piece of advice that each of you would like to give to our listeners when it comes to relationships in any realm. I'll start with you.
For myself, and something that I really learned, and I'm learning in this season too, is that I have a heart to love, and I meet friends everywhere.
She does.
And I literally, I literally have people that say, I want to hang out with you. Let's hang out. And I'm like, that person that is it's really like hard for me to hang out with people, especially in my season. But that I'm just like, okay, I'll hang out with you, and then I kind of feel like drained right after, and I'm like, I know this isn't for me. I know this isn't like the friendship that I should have, but you know, they're acquaintances, and we're going to keep it that way. And then there's other moments where I'm just like making friends left and right, and then I'm like, yeah, I want to hang out, yeah, I want to do this, yeah, let's talk, and then, you know, we'll like talk and everything, and then I feel like there's something that God's warning me, like, you have to be careful in who you share your heart with, because you can wear your heart on your sleeve, and there's some people that don't cherish it. So I would say my biggest advice is just use discernment. Don't stop being yourself because of people around you, but also like the ladies were sharing earlier about boundaries, just making sure that you use discernment on who you can share what with, because there's some people that you can share coffee with and great laughs, and then there's other people that you can share the deepest, most hurt that you're going through, and you know that they'll protect your heart. So just know that it's not always about cutting off people also, because I learned that too. It's just about knowing where to place those friendships.
So that's really good. Hot fire. Yes, go for it. Sorry. I didn't prompt you.
Last piece of advice, Shakay.
New red flag. If the guy doesn't have friends.
Honestly.
That's big.
Honestly.
That's big. But again,
unless his friends are cows and horses and a ranch. Oh, man, I should have said that story. Dang it. Okay, go for it.
Anyway. You should tell that story.
I will. I don't think I've told you. Did I tell you about the stable boy I met?
Oh, you did meet one after?
Yes, girl.
No,
you didn't tell me that. Should I say it?
Yeah, if you want to.
Just make it a quick story.
A quick story, 2 minutes. Okay.
I'm sure the readers are going to want to hear about that. A prophecy that happened.
Yeah, I'm saying. It's going to be funny. Okay, so I was in the hospital. I had a huge headache.
Oh.
I had a huge freaking
it's not
headache.
the nurse.
Yes, it is the nurse.
Oh, yeah.
Just let me so I had a huge headache, and so I tried my best to endure, but they ended up giving me morphine. Okay, so I was a little cuckoo. Okay, and so then finally I get into the OR, and they call the OR nurse. handsome. This man was handsome, okay? And so there I was in one of my most vulnerable moments, half like high, and then they start trying to distract me from what's going on, right? And so then he was like,
just walking in front of you, done.
Say less. So then he was like, oh, just think about like your favorite place. My doctor said that. She was like, think about where you would like to travel or whatever. And so she's like think of Disney or Hawaii. And I was like, ugh, gross. And so then he was like, no, the mountains. He's like, if there's any hidden lake or anything, he's like, I'm gonna find it. And I was like, what? And so then he was like, and so then at this point they were starting to give me anesthesia, okay? So not only was I on morphine, but I was on anesthesia.
I wish I could have seen this.
Only me, dude. And so then he's like, yeah, and he was like, but I don't do that so often anymore. What if he ever comes across this? This is gonna be great. And he was like, he's like, I don't do that so much anymore because, life or whatever. And so my doctor, being a great wing woman, was like, oh, like, how come? And he was like, oh, because I have a ranch now. You guys, come on. We prophesied this at the beginning of the thing. So then he starts talking about he has so many horses, like 6 horses. 6 horses. He has like goats. And so then he was like, yeah, like I have a traveling petting zoo. So what I do here just supplements that, And so
wow,
like, yeah, it's just match made in heaven. Okay?
Wow.
And so then all of a sudden, like, the anesthesia hits and I get, like, weird or whatever. And he, like, yeah, it's just a thing. And so then I wake up, never see him again, whatever. And so then I'm telling Shekinah this story. And I'm just, like, so excited, right? I'm like, hey, this happened. Like, I hope I get to see him again or whatever. Shekinah was like, or maybe you were just drugged out and you imagined all of this.
At the point when she said he had a ranch, I lost it. I couldn't breathe. She was like, what? And I was like, dude, you were baked. None of this happened.
I've never seen him again. That's why you were texting me. I hope I see him again. Poor thing.
Oh yeah, I did tell you then. Okay, yeah, so now I have to confirm with my doctor, so stay tuned for that update maybe in season 4. But
this is why you need friends.
What do you think? What do you think? You're the one that brought up the stable boy
I did?
in that one episode. Yeah.
I don't remember.
That I fell in love with the stable boy. This could be your ticket
She
to your
found him.
horses.
Could be.
Could be.
Could
Okay. Sorry, go
All
ahead.
the kids' birthday parties.
I think that's just a good ending right
So
there.
you forgot a important part.
Which
that for
was?
your birthday you're gonna have a
Oh
petting
yeah,
zoo.
for my birthday I'm gonna look for this traveling petting zoo. You guys are all invited. It's our September in the Connects.
Owned by doctors.
Yeah, it's owned by the owners.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so you're all invited. Okay?
You know what? YouTube and Spotify, do your thing. Find this person
Yeah,
and send
do
it
your
to her.
thing.
Yes.
Oh God, now I'm sweating.
Tell them what hospital you're at.
They'll know.
Yeah.
They'll know. The right people will know.
We can just
always
look at the directory.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
I've done that before for somebody,
Have
for
you?
a friend. I
Oh.
have.
Ready? We got vicious and delicious ready.
Look at this. This is why you need friendships.
for you right now.
They're ripping through the roof again. They prophesied him and they're ripping through the roof. This is why friendships matter. Okay, so do we end it there? Do you guys want to add anything?
I think this just proved the joy of friendship right here.
Yeah.
All right. Great.
I loved how you just kept laughing though. Like you were blushing all over again.
Yeah, even in the OR room, like some things were happening and he was like, "You're just here giggling," and I was like, "I know."
You're over here trying to hold
your
his
hair, I
hand so
know.
you can remember him.
I know.
No, not the anesthesia.
Here's a lock of my hair.
Yeah. Call me. You're all in your gown, looking all sick.
I love it. So fun.
Yeah, so that's the kind of things that Melissa Chavez gets into.
Sounds like a movie.
It really
Like that
a
lady
Hallmark
Amy.
movie.
Amy would
It's the
play
beginning
you.
of a Hallmark movie.
Yeah.
Total
Yeah.
Hallmark movie. I'd watch it.
Thank you. So stay tuned, you guys, because I'm excited what the Lord is going to do in our lives. With that being said, thank you for tuning in to season 3 of In the Vine Connects. Thank you for tracking with us. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your prayers. Thank you for your encouragement, for your feedback. We've gotten to meet so many different people through this venue, and we just know that God's hand is going to continue to increase it. It's definitely been a whirlwind of a season, but I think all 4 of us are that much better for it. And so we love you guys. We appreciate you guys. And stay tuned for what In the Vine is going to get into next. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening. If you liked this episode or we answered any of your questions, or you have a question that you would like to be discussed in future episodes, let us know in the comments or share on social media. And be sure to hit subscribe so you won't miss out on the amazing content and guests we have lined up for you. Shalom and God bless.